Hi everyone and welcome to Mach 5. My name is Daryl and today we are going to be looking at a full flight gate-to-gate in the Boeing 737 ZEBO mod in X-Plane 11 from Montreal to New York LaGuardia, including a localizer-only non-precision approach to runway 04. Check out the link in the description to download the Boeing 737 flight sim checklist I am using. If you like what you see here today, please give this video a like and subscribe to the Mach 5 channel on YouTube or the Mach 5 page on Facebook so you don't miss out on any content. On the Mach 5 channel or Mach 5 page, you can find all my video tutorials, guides, gameplay, and other reference material to help take your own flight sim experience to the next level. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoy. Alright, so we've just entered the flight deck. Get the aircraft powered up. Battery switch on. Ground power is connected. We'll put that on. The IRS is aligning. And put the emergency exit lights armed. I forgot to set my fuel, so I'll set my fuel. Okay, fuel required on this flight from the flight plan I got off simbrief.com is 7,400 kilos. So 7,500 will work. That gives us a gross weight of 67.5. Flight plan showing 67.8, so we can just nudge the payload weight. I'll keep it a little, just a slight bit lower, so we'll leave it where it's set. That looks good. I'll take that. And it looks like it took there, so I'll cancel the cautions and let's start setting up the flight management system. I'll send off a request for the ATIS. Montreal ATIS. We got 737-800 26K engines, and I went on to, I got a subscription to Navigraph. So now I have active database that is current until the 26th of February 2020. So I'm working with completely updated stuff. Pausing it. Montreal. I'll put GPS position. We've got 4527.5 north and 7344.6 west. That looks reasonable. I'll put that in there. So we'll initialize off of that. And the time is 18:25 Zulu on the looks like 21st of March. My day's a little bit off, but my time looks good. Okay, so Montreal, and today we're going to LaGuardia. Should be good. They have a localizer only onto 31. Winds are favoring 31 there, so we'll get to do a localizer only non-precision approach. It'll be a good example of how to do that, I hope. And flight number is United 552. Okay, and departing Montreal. I'm going to plan off of 24 left. That would make sense for today. Winds are favoring that runway, and that's favored for departure typically. Montreal 1 departure is the only departure procedure there. And to the route page. So through Navigraph and simbrief.com, I believe I can actually have my flight plan set up in a saved route, but just for the purposes of so everybody can see how it all works, I'm just going to manually input my routing. So the Montreal 1 departure puts us on vectors, and the first waypoint is Fawns, then Bugsy, then Jet 570, J570, and that should take us to Albany. There's another little trick I can I can't show you on this, but maybe another flight we can show. I can show an example. The Harp 3 arrival is into LaGuardia, so we got the Harp 3, and this is going to be via Albany because that's the last point on our flight plan. Localizer 31 is the one I want to use, and we'll see what ATC gives us there. And here's an interesting thing here. So when you select localizer on the 737 FMS, it'll automatically select the glide slope off. Now if there was, say, an ILS under runway 31, which there isn't, but let's just say there is an ILS and you selected the ILS, the glide slope on would be in green. And if for whatever reason the glide slope was out of service, which it happens from time to time, you may have to end up doing a localizer only on an ILS. So what you would just do is click this button to turn it on and off. So if it was an ILS and you were doing the localizer only, you just click this button to turn it off. Alright, we'll review our route here. So we've got Montreal going to LaGuardia. It's a call sign today is United Airlines Flight 552. Depart 24 left on the Montreal 1 departure. Radar vectors Fawns, then direct Bugsy, then Jet 570 to Albany for the Harp 3 arrival, and then we'll get vectors for the localizer 31. So I'm going to activate that and execute it. I then go to the legs page and just verify that there's no discontinuities. Everything looks good. We've got RNP 1 for departure. Perf init page. Cost index today is 61. We have reserve fuel of 3.1. Reserve fuel. So that is your alternate fuel plus your final reserve fuel added together. That's the minimum fuel we would have overhead LaGuardia to then fly to our alternate of Philadelphia, plus have our 30-minute reserve. Zero fuel weight is 60.6. That gives us 68.1 for a takeoff weight. Flight level is flight level 360. I'm going to put the top of climb winds in. Top of climb winds 245 at 175, and let's see, ISA deviation up, or sorry, outside air temperature is minus 52 up there, so I'll just put a slash minus 52 for outside air temperature. Okay, maybe it doesn't require the slash. Minus 52. Excellent. Transition altitude is 18,000 feet, that's correct, so I will execute that. N1 limit page. Let's have a look at our ATIS. ATIS is in Montreal at 1526 Zulu. It's showing a 290 at 5 knots and at 1.25 mile of visibility. This is the RVR 24 left, 5,500 feet variable up to 6,000 feet with a downward tendency. We have light snow broken at 800 and overcast at 1,300 feet. Temperature -1 and the dew point is -3. 29.68 is the altimeter, so a bit of low pressure. I'll put the altimeter in right now. So altimeter in inches is 2968 and 2968. Can barely see that. 2968, and on the first officer side we'll also set 29.68 inches. Alright, so temperature is -1. It's kind of a crummy day here, light snow, and I guess there's no de-icing here in the simulator on in this program, but if it was a real day, we'd be probably heading to the de-ice bay to get some Type 1 and Type 4 fluid applied to the wings. So -1. We'll head back to the N1 limit page. So it's -1, and because it is kind of a bit of crummy weather out there, I'm just going to go with full takeoff. You know, we've probably got a contaminated runway with snow on it, so we'll use full takeoff thrust, and that's going to be 95.7 on our N1s. I'm going to use flap 5, center of gravity. Where is our CG? Takeoff CG is 24.1. 24.1 and 4.94 on the trim. 4.94 is pretty much set there. I'll accept these V speeds. And we're going to do it 1,000, 1,000, and 1,000. So at 1,000 feet we'll accelerate, we'll set climb thrust, and we'll clean up our flap. The engine out acceleration height, basically if you lose an engine, you know, you have to make sure that that altitude would be above obstacle clearance altitude. However, you know, however your airline would figure that out, you'd have information for that at the airline I work for. It's given to us with our takeoff watt data, which I'm not sure how to get on X-Plane 11. Maybe I'll figure that out in the future, because right now I'm just kind of guessing, you know, what I need to use for flaps, for my N1 limit, V speeds. Normally I would get all that through a takeoff calculation. Alright, so the FMS is pretty much programmed. I'll go to the prog page here, 319, just as a check. And my flight plan says 312, so that's pretty reasonable. And fuel overhead LaGuardia 5.4. And it shows me over with 4.0, but we did put on a little bit extra fuel, I believe, so it's showing 7.5. Well, so it thinks I'm going to burn significantly less fuel than what than what the flight plan says, so we'll see how that all goes. Flight plan's saying we should burn about 3.1. That's only going to be about 2.1. So, but it seems it's good enough for now. At least it's showing us burning less fuel and not more. So the IRSs are aligning. Or they're actually probably aligned. So the lights are out. We do a quick pre-flight scan. And I'm going to put a fuel pump on. Let's just see. I don't believe we have no fuel in the center tanks. So I'm going to put fuel pump on and get the APU started up. Okay, put the seat belts on. That would normally be like a no smoking sign. And because it's cold out today, I can get the probe heat on right now. It's not really, say, necessary, but I guess if we got snowfall, and it makes sense to at some point, you could even do it a little bit later, but start warming up the probes if there's some snow collecting on them. And on taxi out today, we're going to have to put the wing anti-ice on and the engine anti-ice on as well. So our APU is up and running when this light illuminates. That's the APU gen off bus light. Put the APU, oops. APU is now powering up the aircraft. And normally you'd wait about a minute to let the APU warm up before you put the APU bleed on, but I mean, this is just simulator, so we can put the APU bleed on now. And we can also put some packs on, get some air flowing through the cabin. And we set our cruise altitude was 360. Okay, landing elevation in LaGuardia. I'm going to check my LaGuardia chart here. So the airport elevation is 20 feet, so sea level works. Flight director's on. I like to set 25 for my max bank angle. And while I'm thinking of it, I'm just going to go down to the, let's see, go to the route page, take off, and get 149 for a V2. Goes in here. That's going to be your V2 speed, 149 for after takeoff. The SID goes to about 5,000 feet. And a runway heading is what the SID calls for. So that's going to be heading at 237. I'll pre-select that as well. Okay, moving along. Set the fuel used. Going to go to RTO on the auto brakes. Flaps are up at 0. We got 3 green. The gear handle down. Alright, so I am hooked up to VATSIM. I filed a flight plan on simbrief.com. I pre-filed it, so all the information was there, and all I had to do was basically, I'll show you here, Alt-Tab to pull up some other windows. Here is, I got to get a hotkey for that. Here is my setup here for VATSIM. And let me see, it shows right now that basically there's only a gander is available. Let's see here. There's currently an overseas track system taking place on gander until 1750. Okay, so there's some overseas stuff going on. So we'll see if we can get, I don't know if there's going to be anybody in the Montreal area. Let's have a look on, let's see, VATSIM. There's people in the Montreal area, so let's see how this works for us. I'll try using, I wonder if I select, so 31.7 seems to be the only nearby controllers I have. Let's give them a call. We'll try 31, maybe we will try Montreal first, and if that doesn't work, we'll try that frequency. So Montreal clearance is going to be on 125.6. And Montreal clearance at United 552. Sounds like there's nobody on that frequency. So what I believe I'm going to have to do here is talk on that gander frequency. I don't know if they're going to be able to, if they accommodate me through that frequency. It seems like VATSIM, you just kind of use whoever's nearby to issue clearances and stuff. I'm kind of new to the whole thing, and that's what it seems like to me. So. Anyways, that's all good. Pre-flight scan's all complete, so we can try to grab our clearance now. I think it was 31.7 if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, 131.7, so we'll try that and see if that works for us. 131.7.
Kilo 640 Roger, got the copies 56 north, 30 west at 17050, flight level 380, mark decimal 85.
So he's issuing an oceanic clearance
report your next estimated waypoint with the time and the point thereafter.
For some overseas flight.
We are copied. The point after 540, 560 is 57. Then this will be jump to 5650 line up 3 Okay, copied. The next is 57 north 40 west, and what time please? 17:09. Okay, estimated 57 north 40 west at 174 Zulu, and 56 north 50 west thereafter. Let's go.
And Gander, it's United 552.
United 552, Gander radio passing.
Yeah, I'm on the ground in Montreal trying to get a clearance to LaGuardia. Is there anybody operating that airspace?
United 552, I'm not sure to be honest, but it seems like a negative.
Okay, thanks.
Gander radio, 6449 hotel position.
Okay, so it seems like we're out of luck here.
Speedbird 49 hotel passing.
So what I'm going to do is
Hotel reporting.
flip off that frequency. Alright, so it seems like we're a little bit out of luck here with ATC. So what I'm going to do is depart Montreal, and we're going to fly towards the New York area, and hopefully there will be a controller in the New York area. Maybe we can pick up our IFR clearance from them and continue on with ATC. So we'll see how all this goes. Okay, so I think we would be squawking. I would never depart without clearance, but I'll just leave the transponder on 2000 then. And I'm going to get rid of this barrow indication. So we got our clearance, we're all fueled up, the FMS is programmed, pre-flight scan is complete. I'm going to do a before start checklist. So the parking brake is set, there's brake pressure, and the light is on. Windows and doors are closed, lights out, external power disconnected. This light is no longer illuminated. That means the ground crew has removed the ground power. And fuel quantity is checked. We've got roughly our 7,500 kilos. Fuel panel. So there's no fuel in the center tanks, so we're going to leave the center tank pumps off. Hydraulic panel. We got the A pumps off. And basically we turn the A pumps off just because during a pushback, if there is any hydraulic pressure in the A system, it could cause the nose wheel to move, and we don't want the nose wheel moving with the tow bar disconnected. With the tow bar connected, because it can injure ramp personnel. Fasten belts on, isolation valve open. That's supplementing. Make sure we have bleed air to both sides of the bleed air ducting for our engine starts. APU bleed on. Pressurization auto. Flight deck door. Let's see if I can get it all the way around here. Close that. Flight deck doors closed and locked, and transponder. To Alton. Trims are set. Anti-collision on. And the before start checklist is complete. I'm going to plan a pushback in this direction. And okay. I did not want that little segment there, so I just hit delete, get rid of that. Should push back to approximately this line would make sense. So that looks good to me.
Ground to cockpit. Blood on knowledge. Call me through the menu when you are ready.
Okay.
Ground to cockpit. Tow is driving up.
Alright, so the tow's on its way, and we've completed the before start checklist. That's a little unfortunate they don't have controllers up here. Last time I was on, they had controllers in Montreal and the New York area. I know the New York area is a little bit more popular and busy, so you know, hopefully we get going. Maybe we'll be able to get a hold of somebody either in Boston airspace or New York. But anyways, here comes the tug. It's just hooking up now.
Okay, all doors and hatches are closed, ready to connect.
So throw on a wiper here. He's connecting up his tractor. You can see the nose starting to rise.
Tow connected and bypass pin inserted. Release parking brake.
Alright, so I'll just push the brake pedals here to release the park brake. And there we go.
Starting pushback, and you may start engines.
Okay, so we'll start the engines up. We have, let's see, APU's up and running. We're just going to turn the packs off, and we're going to hit the start button to ground. Start up number 2 first. Engine's turning, 25% N2 is what we're looking for. We're going to add fuel. Engine start lever to the idle detent. And there's fuel flow, EGT, N1. Oil pressure rising. This light here shows the start valve is open. Start switch just clicked off and the start valve closed. That little red tick is gone. We have a good start on the number 2 engine. So let's start up the number 1 engine. %. Fuel flow, EGT, N1. Some oil pressure rising. There we had a good start on number 1. So it probably doesn't help that I'm doing this flight on a Thursday around noon time, because I think VATSIM's mostly basically made up of volunteers, ATC, air traffic controllers. So I mean, everybody's probably working. More likely than not, I would assume in the evenings it might get a little more busy. Maybe some more controllers will come online.
Operation complete. Set parking brake.
Alright, pushback is complete. So I'm going to set the park brake.
Disconnecting tow, standby.
Alright, disconnecting the tow. So in the meantime, normally, in real life I would wait for the ground crew to get clear before I do the after start checklist, and the reason being is I want to make sure they're clear of the aircraft before I get busy with stuff and then, forget about them, and, who knows what could happen. So I always wait, but, we're in the simulator here. We'll keep moving along. We'll do the after start checklist. Generators on. Okay, we'll disconnect and go to hand signals with the ground crew. So the generators come on, the APU, basically the engine generators take over powering the transfer buses, and the APU automatically gets removed from the electrical system. So generators on, probe heat, they're already on.
Tow is disconnected and bypass pin has been removed. Hand signal on the right. We'll see you next time on other side flight.
Alright there, so he's taking off, getting out of the way. Probe heat's on, wing anti-ice on, engine anti-ice on. Basically we use that anytime it's 10 degrees Celsius or less and icing conditions exist, basically visible moisture, and 10 degrees Celsius or less. And we have snow outside, so we're going to get all that going. Hydraulic pumps, come on. Packs. Let's go to auto, isolation valve, auto, APU, lead off, APU off. Let's go to the flaps, and we're going to set 5, and then do a recall. Alright, so that after start checklist is complete, and I'm going to do the before takeoff checklist right now just because it's too difficult to do while taxiing. So auto brakes are RTO, auto throttle arm, takeoff data is alright, so this is where I just caught something. Normally what I would do is do I didn't set my MCP up for departure, so what I'm going to do is arm the VNAV. I'm just going to do the departure and heading select and VNAV. So typically what I usually do after I review my takeoff plan or do a departure briefing, so I would just check this page out. We're doing flaps 5. It's going to be the trim's already set. Those are the V speeds. I set my V2 up here. My acceleration altitudes are all at 1,000 feet, and thrust reduction. And I've got the LNAVs armed. Sorry, the VNAVs armed. I'm not going to use LNAV on departure. Heading select will automatically come up when I push the toga button, so I don't need to set a. Since we can select it or we can deselect it, it really doesn't matter. But you'll see when I push the toga switch, heading select, we're going to get N1 heading select and toga on our flight modes, and 5,000 feet is our departure altitude. So that's the SID altitude. So everything is good there. Okay, so the takeoff data is all set. Weather radar, daylight today, I would probably put it on. Don't know if it's really going to show anything or not. Terrain I have off, and I'll put terrain on the far side here. And the transponder can go to TA-RA. Normally we do that taking position on the runway, but it just gets too busy when you're by yourself in the flight deck. So we'll start our taxi. Probably clear us. Have a look at my taxi chart here. We'd probably take a right here and enter Alpha Mike. I'm just going to cut the corner a bit. taxi down Alpha. This is normally, in reality, we'd probably cross this runway first, but then call for the before takeoff checklist, and the first officer would get that all finished while we were taxiing to the active. But like I said, it's just without having a first officer, it's easier to do the before takeoff checklist while you're parked. See if these ground vehicles cut us off. And of course. Los Angeles. Looks like I exceeded the maximum taxi speed there for a second, got up to 32 knots. Normally you wouldn't taxi quite this fast either in these conditions. With a taxi light on as well. And you know what? I'm just going to assume that we contacted Tower, and Tower gives us clearance for takeoff. As we're approaching the end here, these lights can go to strobe. You can see why I try to do most of my checklists without while I'm parked, because it's I have a hard time trying to stay straight. Alright, and also because it is icing conditions today, so we would have normally went to the de-ice bay. Obviously, I don't know of any de-ice bay in the PC simulator world, but what we would do is an engine run-up on takeoff to ensure that we don't have any ice buildup inside the engine. So we can do that, and the way we'd normally do that is we would do an engine run in the 737 every 60 minutes or prior to takeoff. So we'd request a short delay in position with Montreal Tower, about a 10-second delay. We'd line up. Slippery here. Okay, I'm going to try to straighten us out a little bit. Okay, here we go. So, engine run-up procedure, we got 50% in one. We'll wait for about 5 seconds. Just verify that there's no engine vibrations Nothing over 4 would basically be keep it running until the vibes go down. If they don't go down, then you shouldn't really take off. We'll declutter the engines, and basically good for takeoff. So I'll just release the brakes and hit the toga button. Okay, we lost the auto throttle there. Oh, there we go. N1 heading select toga.
Positive rate.
Gear up. N1 VNAV speed. Command.
1,000.
So through 1,000 feet, the aircraft's going to accelerate. And we're accelerating towards flap 1 maneuvering speed, so we'll bring flap 1. Once we're through the flap 1 speed and still accelerating, we can go flaps up. And at this point, you can contact Montreal departure. They probably have a vector for you and clearance to a higher altitude, so I'm going to put in, I'll put in 15,000. And I will also select a higher scale on our map here. And you know what, it's got us, why don't we go direct to Fonz? So I'm going to put in, go to the legs page here. I'm going to select Fonz, execute. That looks good on our map page. So we'll select LNAV, and there is LNAV. I'm going to get rid of the yoke here so that it's not in our, it's not cluttering up our view. I'll sync up the heading blend. And look at that, we're up above the clouds here. We're not in any visible moisture or anything like that, so now we can get our windshield wipers off. And we can also turn the engine anti-ice off. You notice the wing anti-ice is off right now. That's because when you apply takeoff thrust, it snaps off automatically because we don't use wing anti-ice during the takeoff. So that comes off automatically, and once we're clear of all the visible moisture, or the temperature is greater than 10 degrees right here, 10 degrees total air temperature, then we can turn the engine ice off. Through 10, we're accelerating, and I'm going to get the lights. I'll just turn all the lights off. We get the seatbelt sign off. That's smooth. Leave it in auto. And gear handle to off. And do an after takeoff checklist. I don't really rush the after takeoff checklist. You know, I just try to get it done when the workload permits. So after takeoff checklist, engine bleeds are on. Packs are auto. The landing gear is off. Auto brakes off. Flaps up. The after takeoff checklist is complete. looks like the cost index is 61, planned us with a climb speed of 300 knots, 1,000 to go, so I'm going to dial up the altitude. Let's just say air traffic control gives us clearance to our cleared altitude of our cruise altitude, which was planned cruise altitude, flight level 360. That's it? Okay, so I was just saying, yeah, our cruise altitude is 360, yeah, and 300 knots was our planned speed. We're going to transition to Mach 776. So this flight plan has us going up to a higher altitude, so that's actually going to happen. We're going to end up in Mach 776 in the climb. Right now we're doing Mach decimal 616. As we go higher up in altitude, 300 knots indicated is going to continuously give us a higher Mach number. Once that Mach number is equivalent to 776, we'll start flying a Mach number, and this will change from 300 to decimal 776, and that's what we're going to target through the Mach transition, as they call it. And we're through transition altitude now, so we'll go standard on the altimeters, standard all three. And let's see, optimum cruise is at 35.4, max is at 38, so 36 is a good altitude, and we're cruising at Mach 789. I'm going to see if we've got any air traffic controllers in our area again. See if this updates at all. Doesn't seem that we have anybody in the Montreal area. Get my heading bug synced up. Well on our way here. Let's have a look up ahead. Just going by Fawns. Bugsy's 14.3.2 miles ahead now. One thing I've noticed on this is that and I don't know if there's a setting to change it or not, but basically we have a magnetic track of 199 degrees is what this line is showing us. So this is showing us our actual track along the ground. See, we're tracking straight to Bugsy, but because the wind is to our right, this is our heading. So our present heading is actually 21, probably 3 degrees. And if we look down here, this is magnetic heading is at the top here, as opposed to magnetic track up at the top here. And that's a setting. I know on the planes I fly, we use magnetic heading up, displayed in the same format as this. On the 767s I used to fly, actually, it was displayed exactly like this. And you see we're getting closer and closer to our Mach transition altitude. Mach 776, we're getting there. So what I'm going to do now is start getting ready for our arrival into New York. Pull up my New York approach charts. Sync up my heading log. So everything's nicely under control. I'm just going to go heads down here into the FMS. And the arrival is the HARP 3 arrival. And that starts at Albany. And then it goes Stott, Pauling, then Kingston, Valerie, Basie. It says Basie to expect 8,000 feet. So I'm going to put in 8,000 feet by Basie, because if it says to expect it, then I can put it in there and at least plan for it. So I put in 8,000 feet by Basie, and HARP, Crawley, and then the LaGuardia VOR. But at some point they're going to break us off on vectors, probably somewhere around HARP or Crawley, I would assume. The arrival does not link up to the approach, so they'll put us on vectors for what we're planning is the localizer for runway 31. So localizer for 31 is Queen, Fabry, and Fabry crossing altitude is, both those crossing altitudes are at 1,700 feet or above. And then there's a glide path 3.06 degrees in the FMS. So although it's a localizer only, there's no glide slope. We can use the FMS to give us vertical guidance. I'm just going to have a quick look up, make sure everything's still going along the way we expect. Everything looks normal. And we are now transitioned to a Mach number, Mach 78. Okay, things still going along smoothly here, and yeah, so like I said, we don't have a glide slope, but we can use the vertical guidance in the FMS to do a nice constant descent down to the runway, as opposed to stepping down to minimum altitudes at all times. So runway 31, and then the missed approach is a 316 degree. Let's see, just says climbing right turn to 2,000 feet. So at 400 feet above ground, it has us doing a turn direct to Greco on a 043 degree track to Greco at 2,000 feet, and then a hold at Greco. So the FMS is programmed up. I should say at least the legs page is all programmed. This is interesting. We kind of stopped climbing here for a minute. And normally I wouldn't like to climb this fast at such a high altitude. Like, 2,000 feet a minute is pretty aggressive up at a high altitude. I'll select 1,000 feet. I'm climbing at vertical speed. MCP speed, vertical speed. We're going to do 1,000 feet per minute for the last 1,000 feet. So 350 for 360.
1,000 to go.
We do have to make sure when we're in vertical speed that the airspeed does not decay too much, because we don't have low speed protection. The aircraft will just keep pitching up to maintain 1,000 feet per minute. But it seems to be able to maintain that, so it's doing quite well. You just got to keep an eye on your airspeed when you are using the vertical speed mode. Choir. I'll put the VNav on. FMC speed and VNav alt. It's kind of odd that it put me in the VNav alt there, so I'm just going to push. Let's see here. I'll push the altitude intervene button. Okay. I'll use level change to get us all the way up to 360. There we go. Thrust is coming up. I really can't explain why we did level off down at 35.8, 35.7. Shouldn't have done that, but you know, we'll get it sorted out here. Yeah, it's still locked into Altiquire here. Seems quite odd to me. Normally we would be cruising into VNav path because on the cruise page 360 is our cruise altitude. We have 360 set, so we should be climbing right up to maintain 360 in VNav path. Let's try vertical speed. Keeps going into Altiquire. Oh, Altiquire, and it's going to. I might have mixed it up when I pushed the VNav button as it was capturing, but you know, you do that in the normal airplane, it's no problem. I guess the big takeaway from this is let it do its thing. You know, if it's in the middle of capturing an altitude, let it capture before, you know, selecting other flight modes. So we went into Altiquire. Now we're in altitude hold. We're at 360. I'm going to now try to go to VNav, and we should get VNav path. Just going to slide my view over a little bit. VNav. There we go. FMC speed, VNav path. We're now Mach 7.9 because we're in the cruise phase. And all is good. This is a nice short flight too. We've got another, looks like about 100 miles or so to top of descent. Let's have a look and see what the prod page says. So top of descent, yeah, 100 miles to go at 1938 Zulu. The time now is 1925, so we've got another 13 minutes to go. I'm going to give ATC another try here. And oh look, we got, so there's a Philadelphia approach and departure controller may be able to give us some clearances into New York. 124.35. I'll give it a try. Let's go to 124, 35.
Right, 30 is in 20 minutes for an hour in ground.
Philadelphia Center, it's United 552.
Philadelphia is departure. How can I help you?
Yeah, are you working New York airspace at all?
Nope, not authorized to do that. No, sorry.
Okay, thanks. All right, so it seems to me there's nobody working New York airspace today. So what I'll do is next time I'm on, I'll make sure. I believe on the website there is a way. I'm going to just turn this frequency to something random here so we don't listen to a bunch of talk. There is a way to determine which agencies are active, so I should be able to figure that out. So we'll just continue like we didn't have ATC. If there was a New York controller out there, what I would have just requested was to get a ATC clearance. They would just give me an ATC clearance from this point in and then continue with ATC, but no dice. So I'm going to do the full setup then for LaGuardia. I'm going to go to the ACARS page, put in a request for KLGA, send that, and I'm going to use, let's see, I'm just going to go with 66 time landing, estimate that. I'll go with the flaps 40 landing. It's fairly short runway in LaGuardia. That gives me 142 knots for VATSIM. And the localizer is 108.5, course of 317. And that jives with what my chart says. My chart actually says 316. So, I might just set 317 to make sure everything within the airplane matches up. 1 degree is not really going to make a difference anyways. However, I'll just put these up here. So 108.5, 108.5. What I will say is, if this course in the actual aircraft, if this course does not match up with this course, you may or may not, you may run into issues using the approach pushback. Both courses have to be set as well. So, I mean, it's 1 degree off. There may be a rounding error in there at some point, possibly maybe a magnetic variation calculation that was rounded somewhat differently. I don't see that as a very big deal going in. So let's see if we've got our ATIS yet. ATIS, LaGuardia. So it's 060 at 7 knots. Okay, that's a lot different than what I had thought. Forecast wind was supposed to be out of the west. So, you know what? We're going to probably be planning to do, we can plan to do the VOR on the runway 4. That'll be another good non-precision approach that we can look at. So we'll land on runway 4. And altimeter is 29.64. So I'm going to pre-select the altimeters right now. So 2964. This one, you just push the middle button, set your altimeter, go back to standard. And 2964 on the first officer side as well. Let's see, what's minimums on this approach? Minimums, so it's an MDA. Anytime I use an MDA as a decision height, I'll add 50 feet as well. So I'm going to make it, it's 560. I'm going to make it 610 for decision altitude. On the barometric minimums. So let's dial that up. Yep. There's got to be a faster way to do this. I know in the airplane this button has 2 speeds, so you can move it really fast and then slow it down to get your actual setting right where you want it. And I'll put barrel minimums as well on the right hand side of 610. Like in the actual airplane, you definitely want both sides the minimum set. In this one, do you really need it? Probably not. I always set it anyways. Alright, so the full approach setup, the way I do it is basically I start off, my verified landing altitude is good. I grab an ATIS, check NOTAMs. I get my landing distance calculation. That way I know what flap I want to use, what auto brakes I want to use. Then I'll push this button here, verify that I don't have any systems that are inoperative. Nothing's inoperative. If there was a system that had failed in flight, when we push this button, it re-illuminates all the cautions that are present. Any failed systems will show there. I'm also going to go to down here to set auto brakes. I'll use auto brakes 3 for this landing. I'm using flaps 4 because it's somewhat of a short runway, so we use auto brakes 3 as well. This time we're not going to push the approach display on the ISFD because we are not doing an ILS. Once all that's complete, I then go down to the FMS. I go to this page, I set my weight, I set my, let's see, I assume we're going to be more like 65.8. Same speed anyway, so I'm not going to change it. Okay, so we set our flaps and our VREF. We're going to go to the depart arrive page. Put in the arrival. So it's still the HARP 3 Albany, however this time we're going to be using the VOR. Okay. It's not showing up in the database. So they have an ILS to runway 4. RNAV Zulu for runway 4. Well, you know what we can do? We can do the ILS for 4, and we can just pretend like in the NOTAMs the glide slope was out of service, because I did promise you a non-precision approach. So ILS runway 4, glide slope off. So I'll execute that. Actually, well, before I execute it, I'll just check in the legs page. So we're still going direct to STOT, and there's still BASI at 8,000. HARP crawling, yeah. And we got Green, Dennis, runway 4, missed approach off to Greco. I'm going to execute that. That looks reasonable. So let's see, I got my approach chart up for the ILS or localizer for runway 4, and minimums for the localizer only with the glide slope out of service. Depends on the lighting available. But one of the options there is 560, so I'm going to keep my 610 with my 50-foot additive. Alright, so that's all in. I would next then go to the descent page, go to forecast, put in some descent winds. That's off of the SimBrief flight plan. Scroll down to the page just past the nav log and I'm going to put in 300. I'll put in 200. And I'll put in 100. Actually, it doesn't have 300, it has 310, so that'll work. So 245 at 137. I'm going to put in 236, yeah, at 103. And I'm going to put in 225 at 53. Execute that. And you know what? I'll also just check on the ATIS again. We have, let's see, it's 4 degrees, it's roughly sea level, so I would say that's, you know, ISA minus 10, 2964. So ISA deviation would be minus 10 and 29.64 on the altimeter. I'll execute that. We are getting closer and closer to our top of descent here. I'll finish the approach preparation though. So that's all complete in the FMS. I'm going to go to we already set up, we'd set up the nav radios for the other runway, so I'll set up 110.5. Decimal 5. Okay, we got a message here, reset MCP altitude. That occurs because we're approaching our top of descent. So if we weren't clear down to a lower altitude, we could query ATC and say, hey, can you get clearance down to a lower altitude? So what I'll do is I'll set, let's say we're clear down to 15,000. I'll reset my MCP altitude to 15,000, and it's going to follow the VNAV path down. And that is to cross base C at 8,000 feet. Basically what it's targeting, because that's the only altitude restriction up ahead. Another way you can check to see where your VNAV's targeting is on the descent page. Shown here, basically at 8,000. It says drags required. And if we end up a little bit higher fast by BASI, I'm not going to be too concerned about it. So if ATC had requested to be at 8,000 by BASI, I would probably put out some speed brakes maybe, or just speed up the airplane. So I'll clear that scratch pad message. Okay, so we got 110.5, and I got a course setting of 045 degrees. So I'm going to put that as well into my on my course selector. So put in 045 degrees. Left side and the right side. Zero 45 degrees. And that's it. We're all set up. I'll do a pre-descent checklist. Let's see, pre-descent checklist landing altitude is set. Recall, MFD cancel recall. This little button here is the MFD cancel recall. Push that to see if there's anything wrong with the auto land system. Seems like it's all good. Auto brake is set to 3. Approach briefing is completed. And the landing data VREF is 142, minimums are 610. Pre-descent checklist is complete. Alright, through 10,000 we'll get the in-range checklist complete. So, alright, this is going to be a really, it's going to be a bit of an interesting approach. You know, we typically do a lot of real-life ILSs, so non-precision approaches are much less common. So there's that drag required message. I'll just clear that. I'll explain everything to you ahead of time, so when we actually go do this, you'll be able to follow along hopefully a little bit better. Basically, the way this arrival works, it does not link up to the approach. So at some point ATC, and there's even a note on the arrival page to expect radar vectors to final approach course. So ATC is going to issue us radar vectrs to the final approach course. So once we do get on radar vectors, what I will do is go down to the legs page here, and I will select, probably I'll take green. You could extend off of Dennis, however, you know, there is this altitude restriction of 2,700 feet or below by green. If they vector us inside of green, between green and Dennis, I can always just move Dennis to my active waypoint. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to assume that maybe they'll vector us just outside of green. So I'll put green in the 2 waypoint, and what I'll do is I'll extend the center line off of green, and then that'll give me a good picture on my nav display of the extended center line. Sync up my heading log, and you know what I'll do? I'll go into heading select now, and we'll just assume that we were getting radar vectors early. For whatever reason, we could say, let's just say, assume maybe ATC has asked us to fly a heading of 215 degrees and maintain 15,000. So, and what I'm also going to do, because we're on radar vectors now, we're not really following the VNav. We're not on our lateral path anymore, so I'm just going to go. I would normally do a level change is a good option. I'm going to go vertical speed though, and I'm going to do about 1,500 feet because we're not in any rush. We're still a good distance back from the airport. LaGuardia Airport seems to be about 60 miles away, so there's no real rush to get down. Plus we have to vector downwind and get turned around for the localizer only approach for runway 4. However, I will keep the speed up to about 300 knots. And approaching 18,000 feet, I'm going to put standard. I'm going to, put 29.64 inches in all 3 altimeters. Also, so we got some clouds we're approaching. The temperature is -9. TAT is -9 right now. So what I will do is I'll get the engine ice warmed up for when we do hit the cloud. I'll throw the landing lights on for now. If I remember when I get cleared for the approach, I'll have to put these 2 lights on, and then when I'm cleared to land, I'll put this on. And I use those as reminders that I have gotten that clearance. Yeah, it doesn't look like there's any. Doesn't look like there's any active controllers out in New York area right now. So I'll just minimize that. Alright, so like I said, once we are on radar vectors, what I will do is go down to the legs page. And all these waypoints on the arrival are no longer of use to us because we are on vectors. So I'll take green. I'm going to put it in the 2 waypoint. And before I execute it, I'm going to change this right here. This is the intercept course. I'm going to put
1,000 to go.
the inbound track of 045 degrees. And execute that. And if we look at the MFD, just hit Alt Acquire. Well, I can let it level for a second, no big deal here while I show you. There's our approach, and the center line is extended, so you get a nice picture of where you're heading and what you're going to be doing. I will put a lower altitude in here as well. Let's say we get cleared now down to 5,000 feet. So we're now told I'll set 5,000 feet. And vertical speed again. About 1,500 feet per minute. And you know what? I'll just use level change. Level change works for me. There's arm and MCP speed. So the thrust goes back to idle and the aircraft's pitching to maintain 300 knots. Alright, all looks good. So now that I've extended off of green, the next thing that's going to happen is we get vectored to the center line, and they're going to clear us for an approach. Now in this case, there's a couple different ways they could do that. They could just vector you to the center line and say on this heading, intercept the localizer, you're cleared for the localizer approach for runway 04. Or they could issue you a clearance, fly direct to green. At green, you're cleared for the localizer for runway 4. So those are all possibilities. So I'm gonna we can do the radar vectored. Actually, why don't we'll do the direct green option once we get going. So if we were going to just intercept the center line, I'll just move my heading here off to the right a little bit. Let's say ATC clears us heading 225. So if they did give us a heading to intercept, what we would do is press the localizer push button to intercept the localizer, and then we could then dial the altitude down to say 600 or 700 feet, and use VNAV to maintain the lateral profile. Once the 2 waypoint is Dennis, we can actually select the approach push button. And in this case, what we'll end up with is VOR loc and glide path, because there is a glide path angle there of 3.1 degrees. But you notice that only occurs after Dennis. So, although it is extended back, there is the risk that we could not make this 2,700 foot altitude restriction by green. So that's why we tend not to use the approach push button if we're going to cross over green. In our case today, though, what I think we'll do is we'll just go direct to green. We'll put green in here, and we'll execute it without changing the intercept course, because we'll want to go direct to it. We'll set the altitude down to 700 feet, and we'll select VNAV, and that'll definitely respect this 2,700 foot restriction. And we can also speed intervene so that we're in control of our airspeed. And then once we're inside green, we can push the approach push button. So, let's say ATC clears us down to 4,000 feet now. So I'll put 4,000 feet in the altitude window. We'll continue down. Looks like I got a little bit of a violation going on here. I exceeded 250 knots below 10,000 feet. Whoops. Alright, we'll do our in-range checklist as well. In-range checklist. Fasten belts on. Lights on. Landing data is, let's see, still set. Altimeters are at 29.64 inches. In-range checklist is complete. Scale here.
1,000 to go.
So we're now 5,000 to 4,000 feet. Now I got the airspeed back to 250 knots, as I should have at 10,000. And I'll even bring it back to 240 now. MCP speed and multiplier. Level off here at 4. So again, lots of different ways that this could all play out if ATC was giving us vectors. But just as just a bit of a clarification, you know, if we were vectored inside a green, or you know, roughly in the green area, if they turned us a base right here and we were coming along here, what I would do is I would extend off of Dennis with a course of 0.45 degrees, and I would select the approach push button. And you could basically do this just like an ILS. That's I would actually arm and the reason you can kind of do some of these non-precision approaches just like an ILS is something known as it's called integrated approach nav. And it all has to do with this button here. On older models of this airplane and on other Boeings that don't have integrated approach nav, this approach would have to be conducted in VOR loc and VNAV path. That's what you'd be looking for. And so what I'll do is I'll initially set up like that to see, so everybody can see how that works. And then once the two waypoint is Dennis, I'll select the approach push button and we'll go into integrated approach nav. And what you'll see is VOR loc and glide path. So the glide path is different than a glide slope. A glide slope is given to you from your nav radios, right, your ILS. whereas the glide path is generated from the FMS. Very similar, GS, GP, similar acronyms, completely different things. Outer marker, don't want to listen to that. Alright, so basically we're starting to get into the, into the area where the approach is somewhat imminent. And for those of you that watched my last flight, I got a little bit busy, get a little bit behind the airplane, flying at single pilot, which I'm not really used to. So I'm going to start to slow things down a bit. I'm going to slow down to up speed. You don't want to go any slower than your maneuvering speeds as you're slowing down. If you want to slow down below your flaps up maneuvering speed, drop flap 1. That'll give you another 20 knots, then you can slow down. If you want to slow down further, drop flap 5 and so on and so forth. You really don't want to slow to less than those speeds when you're maneuvering on approach. The idea is you want to have a nice margin to your stall speed. Those maneuvering speeds will give you margin. You can do like your 30-degree bank and they'll still give you a pretty reasonable, a safe margin to your stall speed. So we're just passing green here on the downwind leg. And you know what? I might even go at this point, and again, everything's kind of different when ATC is involved because they might slow you down earlier, they might ask you to keep the speed up, you never know, but I'll drop flaps 1. And flaps 1, I'll slow to my flaps 1 maneuvering speed. You notice this little red bar comes down? That's the VFE, the maximum flap extended speed for my next flap set. So when I want to drop, flap extension schedule goes 1, 5, 15, and then landing, and then 30, and then 40. So if I want to go to flaps 5, I got to be below that red speed, and then I won't exceed. Actually, it should be yellow. It's the yellow one. But 250 knots is max flap speed for 1 and 5. So we'll get a better picture of that when I go to flaps 5. Let's go to flaps 5 so I can show you this. So flaps 5. The yellow arc is the maximum flap speed for 15, which is 200 knots. The red arc is the maximum flap speed for my current flap. So you got the red arc for your current flap, you've got the yellow arc for your next selection of flap based on the flap extension schedule. I'll dial the speed back as well, down to my flaps 5 maneuvering speed. And let's say ATC says we're United 552 clear direct to green, and upon reaching green, you're clear for the localizer, runway 04. So I'll select green, and I'll push it a second time to put it in to reselect it as the 2 waypoint. I'm not going to touch the intercept course, I'm going to hit execute, and I'm going to push LNAV, and that's going to send us directly to green. There's LNAV, and if you're clear for the approach, I might as well sync up my heading as well. Clear for the approach, I'm going to turn the altitude selector down to 700 feet. That's basically my minimums rounded up. And then I'm going to select VNAV. We select VNAV at an appropriate time, depending on how things are set. In this case, I should be able to select VNAV, and we should end up in VNAV path, and it should maintain 4,000 feet until it intercepts this the profile. So there's FMC speed VNAV path. Okay, it's going to start down, but that's okay. Basically, we're cleared for the approach, so we just have to cross green at 2,700 feet or below. You know, in this area too, ATC would normally vector you in at 3,000 feet. But what I find interesting here is that the aircraft actually descend down to 3,800 feet and then stopped. So I think in real life it would just maintain 4,000 until it hit the path. Just little anomalies, not a big deal. We've got India Lima Golf Alpha, course 045. That's tuned identified. It's the localizer. Localizer is what is the data that it's using for lateral tracking once we get on the approach, and VNAV is being used for vertical tracking. So, one thing I should have done was arm the VOR localizer. Arm the localizer. So we get VOR locs armed. So my lateral mode is set. We're using LNAV to get to the approach. Once we get to the approach, we're going to be in VOR loc. The altitude is set down so we can actually start a descent, because if we leave the altitude selector at 4,000 when we're at 4,000, it won't start down. It'll just stay in VNAV alt. I got VNAV selected. We're in VNAV path. And I'm going to go speed intervene, so I control the speed. Otherwise the speed bug's just going to constantly descend down to our maneuvering speeds, which I'm doing anyways, but I'm going to do it manually. So FMC speed, because that gives me full control of my speed. Because in real life, ATC is going to ask you to maintain, you know, they're going to say maintain 180 knots until green or something like that. And they might say not below 160 until past Dennis. So, like I said, when I'm cleared for the approach, throw those on. When I'm clear to land, I put those on. There we go. VOR loc's captured. So we're now tracking the localizer inbound. We're at 2,700 feet crossing green. Our two-way point is now Dennis. So I can select the approach push button. I'll select my heading to runway heading. And so there we go. Glide path. We just captured the glide path. So now we're on the glide path.
2,500.
Everything's set up. Once we capture glide path, we can go ahead and set the missed approach altitude. And that's 2,000 feet. Glide path is just like the ILS. We can descend down to 2,000 feet. We'll go right through that when we're in glide path. If we were in VNAV path, we would have to leave 700 feet until we're down at 1,700. Once we're at 1,700, then we can set the altitude selector up. And the VNAV will continue down. But the glide path works just like, it's very similar to the glide slope on the ILS in that respect. Dial my speed back to... So I just dropped the gear down. And we're going to flaps 15. Arm the speed brake. And landing checklist. I'll go to flaps. So this at 147 for my speed here, and I'm also going to get a windshield wiper going for my landing.
1,000 feet, stabilized, Mr. Birch, altitude set.
All right, perfect. So, quick landing checklist here. Landing gear is down. Speed brakes are on. Flaps are set. And we are approaching, getting close to minimums. Looking out for the runway.
Approaching minimums. 5 minimums.
All right, and we're landing. Autopilot, all the throttles off. Flight director. That was a nice call.
400.
I was starting to wonder if we were going to break out.
300.
All right, get a little slow on the
200.
slope. I'll correct that. Boy, that tree is in a really interesting spot. that's
100.
That's absolutely hilarious.
50.
I mean, I wasn't
40,
that low.
30, 20, 10.
Let's get some reverse thrust out. So we got reverse green. Speed brakes came up, and auto brake
80 knots.
is happening. Transition manual brakes here. Here's another thing you would never do at an airport like LaGuardia is exit onto a perpendicular runway because they would probably have an aircraft taking off as soon as you cross this intersection. But in the interests of expediting things, I will just turn to the right. Exit, and I believe there is a taxiway here. That looks like it might be a reverse high speed. So it's a tight turn for me. I'll just keep the wiper going, I guess. Oh. I should probably pay attention to what I'm doing. Where I'm taxiing. A lot of tight turns here in LaGuardia. Didn't quite make that one. I'm going to get on to Sierra here. And I'll do an after landing check. Alright, I'll just stop the aircraft here. I'll do an after landing here. So after landing, we would do something like this with the lights. Leave the taxi light on. Once we're off the runway, we go back to steady with the position lights. Probes, we can leave those on because it is still icy conditions out here. Engine ice we'd also leave on. Wing ice, I guess, I would leave it off. We're not going for taxi for takeoff. Flight directors, they would go off. Weather radar off. Turn terrain off on the right side. Auto brakes off. Speed brake down. It's already down. Flaps up. And stab trim can go to 5 units. And the transponder to halt on. The reason we go to 5 units on the stab trim is because there's a little marking on the aircraft, so when the first officer goes out and does his walk around, he can actually verify that the stab trim that the gauge inside the aircraft is reflective of the actual stab trim position. And that's pretty much the only reason we do that. So I'll just taxi into a gate here. Say we're cleared at this gate. One thing I forgot to do was get the APU started. First officer would start up the APU after landing procedure is complete. And we'd also knock a taxi light off at this point and turn the anti-ice off as well, approaching the gate. Last thing we need to do is make sure that we have the APU powering the electrical buses prior to shutting down the engines. Okay, so I'll stop there. I will set the park brake. There, it's set with the light on. And let's head up to the overhead panel. There, APU just came available. So approaching the gate, what we would do is put the APU on the electrical system. So we would stop, set the park brake, and shut the engines down. Seatbelt sign can come off. Below 10% N1, anti-collision light can come off, and that notifies everybody on the ground that you've shut your engines down. And at this point, we just do a parking checklist. We do park brakes set, electrical power set, start levers are cut off, fasten belts off, anti-collision off, IRS selectors off, probe heat off, wing anti-ice off, engine anti-ice off, engine hydraulic pumps on, electric hydraulic pumps off. Packs, auto, isolation valve, open, engine bleeds, on, APU bleed. I'm going to put it on, we can get some air flowing for the passengers. Exterior lights are set. Flight directors off, weather radar off, speed brake is down, flaps are up. Transponder is standby. External power. Let's see if we got external power available. Look at that, ground crew has hooked up external power for us. So we'll get the external power on. When I put the external power on, I can then turn my APU bleed off. I'll turn the packs off as well because they're going to hook up ground conditioned air. I'll turn the APU off. And I'll get the fuel pumps off. Emergency exit lights off. Window heat off. External power off. Battery switch off. That concludes our video today on the full flight gate-to-gate operations of the Boeing 737 ZEBL mod in X-Plane 11 from Montreal to New York LaGuardia. Don't forget to check out the link in the description to download your own Boeing 737 flight sim checklist. I hope you enjoyed it and very much appreciate if you click the like button as well as subscribe to the Mach 5 channel on YouTube or the Mach 5 page on Facebook. On the Mach 5 channel or Mach 5 page you can find all my video tutorials guides, gameplay, and other reference material to help take your own flight sim experience to the next level. I will be publishing new content in the very near future, so keep an eye out for those, and in the meantime, fly safe. Cheers.